All right, we talk more Tigers, more Saints, and a little bit of other stuff as well coming up. All right, welcome to Cajun Connection, episode 3. I'm your host, John Behrens.
And I'm Joshua Perkins.
Okay, so we officially have a starting quarterback now.
By the name of Joe Burrow, transfer out of Ohio State.
Which is no surprise. We kind of saw that one coming.
I mean, I knew it was going to come. I mean, it would be pointless to not put him at starter after he transferred. I mean, Miles Brennan, he's going to his sophomore year, so he still has a big window. So, I mean, it'd be best to put Joe Burrow in for the success of the team.
Yeah, just see how quickly the offense can rally around Burrow and really develop a rhythm. Kind of hate to see Brennan sitting on the bench again, but at the same time, apparently he's not ready to start. So.
He's not ready, especially going against a Miami team. Like, this is a dangerous Miami team, and I don't like to use the term of them being back, but I think they're back. I think that the deadly Miami team we saw back in the 90s, this could probably be a much more dangerous team.
Well, they do have former Georgia coach Mike Rick,
and who brings that SEC style.
Mark Richt.
Mark Richt, he was at Georgia for so long, and he's had his ups and downs in the SEC. So, bring the SEC coaching style. He's bringing that to Miami, and that's what's making Miami so dangerous. And they are a team that is based on defense. So this can be a defensive battle. It all comes down to whose offense can be more consistent and who can drive the ball down that field.
So yeah, I mean, outside of Giles, they really don't have a receiver with too much of experience, and of course now you got the whole situation with players like Drake Davis,
Ed Ingram.
And Ingram was like, that news dropped right after we wrapped up our last week's episode.
And then he texted me about Ed Ingram being arrested on sexual assault. I'm just like, can this get any worse?
But it's not LSU. I mean, it's across the country, and it's pros as well. I mean, the hell.
For some odd reason, you have players who think they're untouchable just because they're playing at these big schools on full scholarships. But you gotta remember where you come from. You gotta remember what you were around growing up. You gotta remember why you were there. You're not there to get in trouble. You're there to get an education. You're there to play football, the sport that you love so much. And if you love it so much, you gotta stay out of trouble. You got to.
Oh yeah, absolutely. You can't let it get to your head. Can't let it all.
And I'm gonna go back to what my world history teacher told me my 12th grade year, world history honors, Mr. Griffith. Shout out Mr. Griffith. Women are the root of all evil. They are not worth your career. They will take your career and throw it in the garbage can quicker than you can say oops. Athletes, keep your hands off these women.
Agreed. And well, not just that. And now that I was thinking, was it like a minor? Ingram's sexual assault case. Wasn't it against a minor?
I did not read up on that case.
Yeah, I think it was against a minor, and that's. I mean, not to say that one is worse than the other, but still, statistically speaking, or at least from a law perspective, it is worse. What are you doing going after a minor?
You're playing for LSU, so in the city of Baton Rouge, if you are an athlete for LSU, you automatically have a microscope on you. People are watching you. They see you on TV. They see you playing on national television. They see you doing this. They see you at these community events. They see you around campus. They see you in the classroom. They see you on the practice field. They see you on the football field. You automatically have a scope on you. Because these people are watching you, they want to see what it's like for to be an LSU athlete in this city. Not only that, they're waiting for you to slip up, especially people in the media. You're going to constantly have cameras on you. You're going to constantly have people trying to interview you. They're waiting for you to slip up because they're waiting for that story. Because that story is, for some people, be their next paycheck. I mean, I'm just saying.
Yeah.
It's either the story that drags you in the mud or it's food on their table. It's,
Yeah. So, another thing that kind of hit the news this past week, which was actually a lot better news, is the reinstatement of cornerback Kristen Fulton. After a 33-month battle, I think it was Joe Oliva sent a letter to the NCAA asking them to downgrade his charge from tampering to urinary substitution, which carries a 1-year suspension rather than the 2-year suspension he was originally slapped with. But that's a boost to an already strong defense, and Fulton was the number 1 ranked quarterback recruit in 15.
And then we already got Grant Delpit. We already got Greedy Williams, Devin White, Chason at linebacker. And so, I mean, we got a really strong defense that's going to have to probably carry us, behind Coach Aranda.
And another thing that, I totally forgot about this, and it was the return of Jacoby Stevens to the defensive side of the field. Another top 5-star quarterback recruit originally.
Which is going to add more contribution to our defense.
Which, they last season they tried him out at wide receiver, didn't work. So they brought him back to the defensive side of the ball, and it looks like they have found a niche for him at edge rusher.
And we definitely need an edge rusher, especially after losing Arden Key. Losing Arden Key was a huge blow, but I mean, he went to the draft. Now he's with the Raiders with John Gruden. Big congrats to Arden Key. But we can use an edge rusher. We've got Rashard Lawrence coming back at defensive tackle, but we need somebody on that edge. You see, that edge, we've had guys like Ali Highsmith, we've had guys like Barkevius Mingo, Sam Montgomery, Arden Key, and so the edge rushing has always been one of the hallmarks for our LSU defense, despite, besides having a secondary, edge rushing has been one of the hallmarks of our defense.
Well, yeah, I mean, they don't call it DBU for no reason, We've had a lot of guys come out of that secondary, just for some Tyrann Mathieu,
Patrick Peterson, Jamal Adams,
Morris Claiborne to a degree. I think he's
LaRon Landry, Corey Webster, Craig Stills, Jack Hunt. Do I have to keep naming them?
No. So, like I said, they don't call LSU DBU for no reason. Of course, they're one of a few. Alabama's another one.
But LSU has always produced formidable defensive backs.
Yeah.
When you look at Patrick Peterson, he's probably the best corner in the league right now.
At this point in time, I would definitely agree with that statement. He's made All-Pro, 7 straight years?
Since he got drafted, yeah.
So 7 seasons, yeah. All-Pro every single year. Speaks for itself. So we'll talk a little bit more about the New Orleans Saints. Again, the offense. Did you watch any of the game this past weekend?
They were on fire. Taysom Hill played a much better game.
He did.
He looked a lot better, a lot more comfortable. He's really starting to come into his own.
On one hand, I still kind of feel like it was he's still running a little bit too much. It works on that passing game.
I mean, he's still pretty young, so.
But you can start to see the type of offense that they could potentially run with Hill at quarterback. Assuming that Drew Brees does retire within the next 2 to 3 seasons, like many suspect that he will, which would put Taysom Hill in his 30s. It was kind of an advanced age for a college quarterback, even though he's now just in his 2nd season.
Yeah. I mean, with Taysom Hill, you look at the game he had against the LA Chargers. He was 7 for 8, 66 yards. He also had 6 carries for 35 yards. Led all Saints in rushing. Tom Savage, who started really coming to his own, was 7 of 10 for 99 yards. So Tom Savage, And I was talking to one of my friends about it one day, about Tom Savage. And like when the Saints first signed him, I was like, why would the Saints sign Tom Savage after what he did in Houston? But then I realized Houston was one of the most wounded teams in the league last season. They had injuries all over the place. The only guys they really truly had was DeAndre Hopkins. They had Will Fuller temporarily. Tom Savage didn't have, he had to work with the resources that he was given. Being with the Saints, he has a lot more weapons, a lot more resources. So say if, say Drew Brees does retire, they put Tom Savage at quarterback. I feel that he can be a good contributor at quarterback. He wouldn't put up gaudy stats like Drew Brees puts up, but he could be a good game manager, and he could be, a decent quarterback for us due to the guys that we have around him. Same, we put Taysom Hill in. Taysom Hill just adds another dimension to that offense.
Yeah, it's been very interesting watching Taysom Hill. You just don't. You're so used to Drew Brees that you're not used to a quarterback that can come out and just run the ball all over the place. But at the same time, he really does need to work a little bit more in the passing game.
It's just
the potential's there. I mean, he can still pass the ball. He made some pretty nice passes against the Chargers
It's just in regular season. It's just hard for me to envision another guy taking the snaps under center other than Drew Brees.
Oh, absolutely.
Because
absolutely.
Drew Brees has been with us for this is going to his 13th season.
Yeah, 13 years with the Saints.
Because he did 2 6-year contracts and now he's on the 2 years. So he's going to his 13th season with the New Orleans Saints.
Which is pretty impressive for New Orleans, who in the past had just gotten their quarterback after quarterback after quarterback, and also they continuously experimented with like guys who were great but have washed up. I mean, I want to say, I forget who it was, but it was back in the 80s when I want to say it was the 80s when they actually signed. It was either Stabler or Starbat.
Oh, that was a long time ago.
And did not do too well. It was after the guy's career was up. I wanted to say it was Starbat. I mean, they just have not had a history of great quarterbacks outside of Archie Manning until Drew Brees came along.
No, we also had Bobby Hebert for a short period of time.
The
Cajun Cannon.
Hebert was still more of a
product of Northwestern State.
I mean, Hebert was good, but he wasn't great. He was more of a game manager. Unfortunately, he came in on the other side of the Saints' great defense of the 80s and early 90s, the Dome Patrol.
Mm-hmm. Who can ever forget?
Hebert was the quarterback through the majority of the Dicka years, which were just a huge disappointment.
It was like the Saints, they tried to be like Dr. Jekyll and Hyde. It was just, the Jekyll and Hyde. I call it like when you want to experiment with trying to get aging players. And it's something that the Rams are going through right now. I call it the Jekyll and Hyde experiment. Either you're going to turn into Mr. Hyde, because Jekyll and Hyde, they're like two of the same people, just two different personalities.
Right.
Either you're going to turn to Mr. Hyde, or you're just going to completely flop on your face. And the Saints, they didn't reach that Mr. Hyde stage,
So I was watching I've been monitoring the Saints a little bit closely as of late, and the starting roster, at least on the offensive side, seems pretty set. Yet there looks like there's this really big battle for the fifth receiver on the team. You got Brandon Tate, Aaron Carr, Michael Floyd. There's a few guys there. Tommy Lee Lewis is another one. A few guys there that are really competing for that final spot on the roster.
Like just the cuts, when it comes to cut day, it's going to be very interesting. After the week 4, and I just want to put this out there, preseason week 4 is where there's a lot more intensity, especially from all your undrafted free agents, some of the veterans that are trying to revitalize their career. It's when the intensity gets the the end it gets marked up because you're trying to make that roster. You want to make that very last impression on the front office before they do their cuts. And so we're going to see a lot of intensity coming out of the Saints team, out of every team actually going into week 4.
Yeah. Well, week 4 is kind of that last chance for guys to come in and make an argument for essentially becoming third and fourth strings on teams.
And for some guys, you get cut week 4. For some guys, that's it for them. That's the end of the road. For some guys, I mean, it's a harsh reality, but it's true.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Every year.
And for most guys, they tend to get, they get picked up, by another team and probably join the practice squad, and they take things from there.
Yeah, but looking at I'm not getting any vibes on who's in the lead for that final roster spot as far as the receivers go. I mean, just when it looks like Brandon Tate's gonna take that spot as a result of really showing some chops on special teams, Aaron Carr comes out and catches a few bombs against the Chargers.
It's just like a battle for territory,
And then still you got a big grab by Tommy Lee Lewis,
who has experience with the Saints system and who was a specialist for the Saints special teams last season as far as kickoff return and punt return. Very quick and very shifty.
Yeah, another spot that was up in question was one of the final spots for the running back position. We did say last week that we didn't see Terrence West making the final roster, and he was cut later that day. But it seems like Johnson Williams is starting to separate himself there, and it looks like my dog's trying to get in my room right now. Apologize for that. It's raining outside. She's afraid of the rain. But anyway, Boston Scott, he looks pretty solid, like on special teams.
Like he's a small guy, but I love his speed. I love his speed. He's the type of guy that the second he bursts through, that's a wrap. And he has that, like, it only takes a couple steps for him to pick up speed. Like his time to pick up speed is just remarkable, and he could be a good contributor to our special teams as well.
Yeah. There was, when he was drafted, he was not even ranked. In fact, he was labeled a development league project. He doesn't look like a development league project. He looks like someone who can come in and contribute right away.
Oh, most definitely. I mean, if anything, I would try and have him, contribute right away. I'll put him on special teams. Like, say if you want to cut Tommy Lee Lewis and put somebody else in the 5th receiver spot, why not put Boston Scott as your kickoff returner and punt returner? I mean, why not?
I mean, the Saints for the last few years have kind of held on to Daniel Lasco is that special teams guy, but after the nasty back injury that he had last year, I don't see how he's even trying to come back and play. I mean, that was a nasty injury.
And that was against Buffalo, huh? Was that against Buffalo? Detroit.
It was on special team coverage.
But I mean, you gotta think about your safety first. I mean, if you're injured, you're something that can probably incapacitate you for the rest of your life. I mean, you gotta think about your health. I mean, and sport of football, if you're a guy that's been playing since you were a little kid, it's hard to let go of it. It's real hard to let go.
That's understandable. That is definitely understandable. So a guy that the Saints apparently recently brought in that I didn't really realize ends up the other Marcus Williams.
Yes, who caught a pick 6 against the LA Chargers.
Geno Smith took it to the house.
And this is a cornerback, man, and so not only that, the cornerback battle is, you got Marshawn Lattimore, you got Ken Crawley, Patrick Robinson, who's evolved this game since leaving his first stint from the Saints and going to Philadelphia, winning the Super Bowl with the Eagles. I mean, this defense is stacked. If I'm on the Saints defense right now and I'm trying to make the 53-man roster, I would be worried right now. Because if you get cut, it's not because of you lack of performance. It's just they found guys who they feel will be better, and it's going to be. I'm talking. Sean Payton's going to have a couple sleepless nights when it comes to making out this final roster. The whole front office won't be doing a lot of sleeping.
No, they got some. They got some decisions to make, but most of those are on the backups. I mean, they just got a lot of raw talent this year. It is really scary the potential this team has, especially if they can come out. They started 0-2 last year. Don't see that happening again. I see them, in fact, starting out. It's like 3-0, 2-0, something like that. I mean, right out the bat, they have
Tampa Bay,
but we're like a Winston-less Tampa Bay, so they have to come out and stop Fitzpatrick. I don't see Fitzpatrick lighting it up against the Saints defense.
I see the Saints defense penetration and just letting them have it.
Game 2 is against the Browns. Granted, it is a much improved Browns team.
New look Browns club. Yes, improved. Going against Tyrod Taylor. And the Browns, yeah, they got all this talent. I mean, but it's going to take some time for them to really adjust to each other. Preseason is not really enough because, I mean, they didn't get a whole lot of snaps with each other. I mean, it's one thing to be in training camp. You get a whole lot of snaps off, throwing the ball around, running all these plays. You building chemistry. It's another thing when you're going against another team and you're in a true regular season game time situation. You got to get the Browns time to really find their footing and find their stride with the new players they got on their team. And so it's going to take some time for them to really find their footing.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that I have kind of noticed, and other people have picked this up, is that the offense, once again, it is going to come out firing. The Traquan Smith is going to be dope. You already got Michael Thomas.
You already got Ted Ginn.
Still haven't seen
a lot of Cam
Meredith. I think that will come as time moves on. I can actually see Smith taking the number 3 spot, at least to start the season.
I can see that happening.
Running backs, no question there. Of course, Mark Ingram's out for the first 4 games.
But you got Alvin Kamara backing him up.
He was the same guy we saw last year against the Chargers.
You got Boston Scott,
and then Jonathan Williams. Again, I see him taking that one of those final spots in the backfield. Shane Vereen seems to be making a slight argument. Definitely will make it harder for Coach Payton come cut time. But the offense just looks pretty set. The defense, on the other hand, I don't know what it is. The first stringers seem to. I mean, they've come out and struggled, at least on the first drive, in 2 of the 3 preseason games.
Like Drew Brees threw a pick against LA, actually. I mean, it's preseason. I mean, can't expect much out of your starters. I mean, I wouldn't expect much of my starters in preseason, honestly.
Yeah, and that's the only thing that why I'm not panicking over that is, I don't really think they're coming out running complex schemes, or I don't think they've even really blitzed much. So
you're not gonna really start seeing true 110% balls to the wall until the regular season, and what you're going to see the Saints completely just dominate when they first come out. I mean, some games that I'm going to keep an eye on with the Saints would be when they go to Atlanta to face the Falcons, when Philly comes to New Orleans, when they gotta play LA, the LA Rams, and I think they're going against Pittsburgh this season. And
yeah, they do have Pittsburgh. Tough schedule for the Saints, at least on paper. Again, it's NFL is one of those things where it's hard to predict who's going to do well.
It's like NFL. It's no longer like college where you can predict and it's pretty much going to happen. NFL is any given Sunday.
Yeah, it really is. You could start the season with a schedule that looks incredibly difficult, and then by the end of the year, you're like, well, that was easy. I mean, look at last year. They had Green Bay, and of course, it's like, oh, Green Bay, that's Aaron Rodgers. Well, he gets injured before the game, and
well, I mean, still the Saints kind of had a hard time with Green Bay, but I mean, we had a hard time stopping their run game last season. I mean, Brett Hundley didn't really do a whole lot.
Aaron Rodgers is worth anywhere from 6 to 8 wins just for being Aaron Rodgers. The question is, how much is the rest of the team worth?
I mean, he has Randall Cobb, Devontae Adams, and now he has Jimmy Graham to add to his arsenal.
Yeah, but he's just one of those players that, like Drew Brees. Would the Saints have gone 7-9 3 straight years without Brees?
I mean,
would they have gotten those 7 wins without Drew Brees?
No, it would have been a totally different story. A totally different story.
I mean, yeah, they had Luke McCown as their backup quarterback, and he did decent in the one game that Drew Brees did sit out. I want to say 2016.
Yeah,
Brees was out for a game or two.
Yeah, he was out for one game, and Luke McCown actually did a pretty good job. They were in Carolina and almost beat the Panthers that season. Actually, They almost beat them that year.
But
I think that was
had it not been for Drew Brees, Saints would have been drafting top 5 at least twice in those 3 years.
Oh, most definitely. I mean, Sean Payton probably, I don't know, he would be coaching right now for the Saints.
Oh, yeah, I mean, if they hadn't made the run they did last year, you could definitely argue that Payton would have been fired after the season had they not made the playoffs.
But good thing we got Drew Brees. He's our old faithful. He's our franchise.
He's definitely the franchise, and I would at this point I would definitely say that he has taken over Archie Manning for face of the entire franchise.
Oh, no doubt about it. I mean, he's the first quarterback to give us a Super Bowl. He's the only quarterback to give us a Super Bowl.
Only the second quarterback to have a playoff win.
That too.
Yeah, Archie never had a team.
That is actually very true. Yeah, he never really had like a supporting cast.
No question about it. No question about it. They had some pretty sad
now,
teams.
His son Peyton had a team.
Well, yeah. So is Eli. I mean,
Eli used to have a team.
You can't sit there and tell me that Eli was the key factor for the Super Bowl wins.
Oh, yeah, he was. I mean, you look at the guys that Eli had. Eli had Brandon Jacobs. He had guys like Ahmad Bradshaw. He had Mario Manningham. He had David Tyree, who made The Catch. Victor Cruz. Plexico Burress. On his defense, he had,
Michael Strahan.
Oh, you took the words right out of my mouth. He had Jean-Pierre Paul at defensive end. Justin Tuck, who was a beast at defensive end. I mean, Giants used to have the squad, and the Giants, when it came down to the playoffs, it came down to the Super Bowl. Both those years when they won the Super Bowls, they were on the road the whole time, from the wild card all the way to the Super Bowl. They were on the road.
Yeah, we really have entered an age where the wild card even the number 6 seed can go
be
the
dangerous. You never underestimate the wild card because those are the grimiest teams because they got more to prove and they got a longer road ahead of them.
Right.
And so it's like when they get to you, they're ready for action. And these wild card teams, they're bred to be. They breed more durability.
So I think the Saints overall, I think their ceiling is 13-3, 14-2, something like that.
Their floor, I would say, would be 11-5. That'll be their floor.
At worst, they're going to match last year.
At worst. And I mean, honestly, no, in my opinion, I think their ceiling is 16-0. That's their ceiling. That is their ceiling. Because the Saints are more than capable of winning every game on their schedule. They are more than capable of beating every team on their schedule.
They were definitely going to be in each game. I don't see them ever being blown out at any point during the season. They have some tough competition coming up. Minnesota for one.
Yeah, they got Pittsburgh coming up.
Once again, we have to go to Minneapolis for that game. NFL will not let the Vikings come to the Superdome ever.
Oh no, that's not going to happen. I mean, unless we get a higher seed than Minnesota coming up in the this year's playoffs, and they'll have to come to us.
Which I do see the Saints and the Vikings fighting for number 1 this year.
You said?
So I do see the Saints and Vikings fighting for that number 1 this year.
Oh, most definitely. They will be fighting for number 1. And of course, you can't forget about Philadelphia. you can't forget about the Eagles.
No, you can't forget about the Eagles, and I'm not. But after some of the losses that they took this past offseason, I do see them taking a step back. Unfortunately,
they lost LeGarrette Blount. They lost Trey Burton. They lost Patrick Robinson. I mean, they lost quite a bit of guys. I mean, usually when it comes to a Super Bowl team, you're going to lose some guys because win a Super Bowl, that's going to raise your market, and more teams are going to want you for more money. And so, with the Eagles take a step back, I can see them Eagles, their ceiling, I would say, would be around 12-4, 11-5.
Yeah.
Their floor would be 10-6, 9-7.
It really also depends a lot on whether or not Nick Foles can come out and perform well.
I mean, Carson Wentz has come back from injury, so he's going to be the starter.
Well, Wentz is not starting the season at center. At least to my understanding, he might be out a game or two.
Okay, I mean, well, he did suffer a nasty torn ACL this past season, in which before the torn ACL, Carson Wentz was my pick for MVP.
Yeah, he's a clear-cut MVP, unless the committee just gave it to Brady because it's Tom Brady.
He's Tom Brady. More you expect out of him. He's Tom Brady.
I mean, we sat here and
freaking Brady.
We've talked a little bit. It's like you got Drew Brees, who will go down as one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time, arguably the greatest of all time.
Especially when he breaks that record.
With several records, including career yardage, career touchdowns, most accuracy.
And honestly, I don't think people are really giving enough credit to this record. I mean, the most passing yards in the history of the NFL. That is probably the hardest record to break. In my opinion, it is. I don't care what anybody says. And so when Drew Brees breaks that record, it's going to be a big party on Bourbon Street, because when you break that record, honestly, anybody who's able to break that record should be considered the greatest quarterback of all time. Because
let's look at the list of people who've held it. First, it was Fouts.
Then you look at Dan Marino.
Then Dan Marino.
Peyton Manning.
Actually, Brett Favre.
Brett
Favre was next. Now it's Peyton Manning, and then it will be Drew Brees.
I don't think Tom Brady can stay in long enough to break that record.
Brady's going to retire before Brees. And
so you're saying this might be his last season?
It could be. But Brady's too far back behind Brees in order to realistically have a shot at passing that. So I see Brees not only passing it, but holding it for a while.
Oh, he's gonna hold it. I mean, who do you know is gonna break that record? Who do you think could be next up to break that record?
I mean, after Brees, it's Rodgers, and Rodgers is already 33. Plus, it's always the question of, is he gonna stay healthy? I mean, when he's healthy, he's one of the
most lethal quarterbacks,
best quarterbacks in the history of the game. But out for 10 games last year with a broken collarbone. Packers went one game without him.
Yeah, and they ended up missing the playoffs. Losing Aaron Rodgers was huge. Even when they had, Randall Cobb and Jordan Nelson, but Jordan Nelson was hurt for the most part last season as well.
But the point where I was going with that is that Drew Brees, there's a real chance that he can end up retiring without ever won an MVP award, and in my mind that's just insane.
It is. I mean, and people don't give him enough credit. I mean, whether you like him or not, you got to give the man credit. You're looking at a guy who plucked the city out of mediocrity, who gave a city their first Super Bowl, and who's breaking records left and right.
Well, you look at the past, and there were some years that when Drew Brees passed for 5,000 plus passing yards, and had fantastic seasons, and yet ended up losing the MVP award to guys who won it just because they were who they were. I mean, I want to say it was 2008 when Peyton Manning won the MVP award and had 1,000 less pass yards than Drew Brees and 6 fewer touchdowns.
And it's kind of, I mean,
he won it because he's Peyton Manning.
I mean, for MVP, it should be given to a player based off, of course, the individual performance. There's a reason why it's the most valuable player. I mean, you look. All right, I'm gonna take it to the NBA. Russell Westbrook. I mean, a couple years ago, he won. The season before last, he won MVP, and the Thunder were eliminated by the Rockets in the very first round, in 5 games. But the fact he had more triple doubles than anybody in the history of the NBA in one season, and they gave him that because he deserved that. There were a couple of seasons where Drew Brees deserved that MVP. He was snubbed out of it just for the simple fact the Saints didn't make it far enough, as far as going to the postseason was concerned.
Well, and then you had the 2011 season when he initially broke the Dan Marino record for most pass yards in a single season, and he had like 44 touchdowns that year.
Also,
a ridiculous,
Also, he broke Johnny Unitas' record for most consecutive games with a touchdown pass, in which.
Yeah, but that was later. And then Saints went 13-3 that year, made the playoffs, won a game at home. Of course, they lost to the 49ers the next week. Well, who won the MVP that year it was Aaron Rodgers, who the only reason why he took it. Now, don't get me wrong, Aaron Rodgers is definitely worth having the MVP award in his career.
Yeah, that's a thing.
But not that year. Brees had a better season. The only thing Rodgers did that Brees didn't was had a higher passer rating. It was only better by like 11 points or something. But the big argument then was, Rodgers went 1-14 as a starter that year. Well, Drew Brees went 13-3, won a playoff game. Packers had home field advantage throughout the playoffs, and the only thing they took advantage of was their ability to stay home.
Because I remember. They didn't go to the playoffs that season.
No, the Packers did.
Oh, they did? Oh, yeah, they beat the Steelers that year.
No, that was 2011 when they finished 15-1 and then lost to the Giants. When the Giants accidentally won the Super Bowl for a second time.
Oh, yeah, that was when they beat the Patriots. I get my dates confused.
Yeah, they beat the Patriots again.
Yeah. That was when Mario Manningham made a huge catch to keep the drive going for the Giants. Remember that they had Mario Manningham that season, Michigan product.
So I would hate to see Drew Brees retire without an MVP award unless they Leo DiCaprio him is like, oh, you're about to retire. Here's your MVP award. Sorry.
I know one thing. Before Drew Brees walks out that door, they'd be like, here's your MVP. You're not Drew Brees. Drew Brees is going to be a man on a mission for these next 2 years. If you don't get MVP this season, he's going to get it the next season. He's not leaving the NFL without an MVP award.
Well, at least that's my hope. He's like he's one of those guys that is well deserving of one, but has yet to win it.
Because Drew Brees, I can guarantee you, don't be surprised if he goes over 5,000 yards. By the way, he's had more 5,000-yard passing seasons than any quarterback in the history of the NFL. So, if you want to get technical.
Well, I think that's all the time we have for this episode of Cajun Connection. You can check us out at aisportsnetwork.com. We're also on Twitter, AI Sports Network, Facebook as well. Actually on Twitter, we're at AI Sports 3, something like that. I'll get back to you next week. But yeah, definitely check out aisportsnetwork.com. We're also on iTunes. You can find us there.
YouTube, Facebook, Twitter.
Facebook and Twitter. But yeah, thank you for watching or listening, depending on where you're at. And we'll see you next week.
I'm Joshua Perkins.
John Barons.
Signing out.
Signing out.